All right, so go to Patrick and then Steve. Go ahead, Patrick B.
Hey, my name is Patrick. I'm an addict. This meeting's been fantastic. I want to thank folks that have put it on. I've got a few points, and the most recently, I put in the chat my email for the lady who was just talking about virtual PR. PR is my jam. I was PR chair for English Area of Narcotics Anonymous, PR chair for Toronto, PR chair for Ontario region. It's where I've done service. So I'm absolutely interested. Please reach out to me as we're forming this virtual PR thing. I wanted to jump from there to a very high level. We've heard a lot of incredible practical information, and I wanted to speak at a spiritual level. A lot of people here, this is causing a lot of fear for a lot of people. NA's been around for over 60 years. It's done nothing but grow. Different languages, all the countries in the world, all over the place, despite all kinds of egregious, incredible nonsense that's gone on. People stealing from the fellowship, people taking the outsiders using the name improperly, and so on and so forth. Believe in our program, believe in our fellowship. We have survived everything else. We'll survive this. We'll not only survive, we'll thrive. On an individual level, you might be feeling some fear because we're moving into new areas or unfamiliar areas. Excuse me. Growth begins at the outer limits of our comfort zone. We have to work through this fear. Keep in mind, if we're doing our best to follow spiritual principles in service of carrying the message, it's almost impossible to mess up. You will, maybe you're not going to get it perfect. It's all good. You're doing your best. We love you for it. Please keep trying. You'll get it eventually. And remember that when you receive objections about moving forward in these new situations, they're often based in fear. So if you address the fear before getting specific about various practical issues, it kind of takes everything down a few levels and gets everybody to breathe and relax a little bit. I've mentioned this before when I spoke, that this is new in the context, but it's not new. I've been in computers since the 80s. I've been in NA since 91. When the internet came on, we started doing meetings on IRC. All of the questions that I'm hearing now came up then. It's all the same thing, you know. So we're just applying new. We got through that. We're applying new technologies and methods and ways of doing things, but there's really, it's just the context that's changed. The spiritual principles haven't changed. How we behave towards the fellowship and in meetings and stuff hasn't changed either. Just to go back to my PR experience, I've lost count of how many times I've gone out in public and told my story and told people I'm an addict, and I'm actually in my day-to-day life quite open about it, because I want people to know that recovery is possible. You can get better. I've never once had that come back on me. So yeah, we have, this is going to stretch how we deal with anonymity. It'll come out okay in the end. I did have one practical thing that I wanted to add, and then I'll clam up. I just emailed to admin@virtualna.org meeting information on a platform called Discord. It's essentially chat for gamers. That's where the it comes from. I have a number of channels on there. I've been using it extensively. And Surrender to Serenity, my home group, that we had to close down physically because before the pandemic, simply out of lack of attendance. It's one of the oldest meetings in the Toronto area. I'm in Toronto, Canada. And I was sad about closing it down, but we've opened it up. So a couple of things. First of all, it's free. Free as in no money. It's a really well-developed, robust platform. It's very easy to use. There's no problem with that. So if money is an issue for anybody, use the free stuff. And I'm quite sure the people, the Discord people will help us out if necessary. And I think you can donate too if you want, if people really want to do that. So Surrender to Serenity is open on Discord. I posted it on my Facebook profile. You can see Patrick Boak, B as in Bob, O-A-K-E. You can go there, and if you're interested in trying, you're welcome to come and check it out. It's basically open 24/7 for chat. Thanks for letting me share. Thank you again for doing this, and stay calm. Thanks. Bye.
Hey Pat. Thank you. We did a big presentation on Discord last week, so I'm going to connect you with some of the members in New Jersey who've been doing it too. There's also some guys in Australia, and we're trying to create a channel in Farsi for Iran. So maybe we can use your help with that.
Happy to help.
Okay, I got your email. I'll connect you with everyone. Thanks, man.
Thank you, brother.
We're going to move on to Steve and then Corey. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi guys, I'll turn my video on whilst I'm talking. That would be fair. Yeah, I'm an addict. My name's Steve. I'm from the UK. I'm currently chair of the Highlands and Islands group of NA.ASC, and I've heard some really good stuff here today. I think originally Chris asked me if I could talk a little bit about how we approach Tradition 7. Our group has been in existence for 8.5 years, and right from the very get-go, we started off by setting up a bank account, mandated bank account, with a club and societies account system here in the UK. It's all online, which means we have complete access to all our accounts and transactions online, which is really useful. We started off with one meeting, and originally what we were doing was just literally giving people the account number and the sort code for that account, and they could then either walk into a branch of that particular bank, make a contribution, or they could use those details to access their own mobile banking and actually make deposits and make contributions in that way. As we developed as a group and we started adding more meetings to that group, we had a conscience and realised that to expect all the autonomous groups under the umbrella of HIGNA to set up the same things, set up bank accounts, set up PayPal accounts, and so on and so forth, was going to be really complicated. I don't know what it's like in the States, but here in the UK, for a group to set up a new bank account with mandated signatories on it, it takes time. In fact, it can take weeks. I know that a lot of fellowships here, a lot of service bodies here still struggle with that today. I mean, even our region is struggling with that, trying to get mandates changed on bank accounts. It's a nightmare. All has to be done by snail mail. Everything has to be signed and all that kind of good business. So we associated our account with a PayPal account. And I think it's what's been said before, you know, you need to have a bank account to set up a PayPal account. And we believe, we started our groups really right from the get-go, believing that we needed to be autonomous and we needed to do what we were doing under the same guidelines as any other meeting would. So regular meetings of NA. I really like what Patrick was sharing earlier on. You know, this stuff has actually been going on for a long time. I mean, in some ways, the group that I'm involved with, I mean, I've been involved in online recovery now for the best part of 11 years. You know, we're the kind of new generation of this stuff. We found the Skype and the voice over internet protocol stuff, you know, so we're no longer typing in short choppy sentences to share, and that's a real bonus. But that's kind of working for us in terms of how we manage our Tradition 7. as an area, we purchase a license for the platform we use, which happens to be Blue Jeans, and we also service a website, which we put up, which is www.higna.org.uk. I can post that in the message box if you like. Because we've got the advantage of having done this for a long time, we've made all the mistakes that you guys are now making. And I think it was Kelly that shared. I really like what Kelly was talking about. You know, we need to keep our heads here. Kind of the first 2 weeks of this. Listen, guys, the party's over. You know, this isn't a huge house party anymore. This isn't a huge 24-hour world convention where we're all jumping and hopping from one meeting to the next. And you know, the primary focus of our groups has always been thinking, how can we create an atmosphere of recovery in our rooms? How do we do that? How do we emulate the same kind of atmosphere that you're going to get in a face-to-face meeting? And that's been a focus for us, and the way we've kind of tried to manage what we do over the years. You know, and we feel we've got a fairly good balance of that now. You know, because we've been doing it a long time. And we have home group members, they all understand what's going on. I mean, recently we've had a lot of what I'm starting to call face-to-face refugees that are coming into our meetings. And one of the things I'm learning really quickly with all of this is it's been involved for this for a long time. We need to really practice our tolerance and patience and actually understand that this is new. I think it's also been said, you know, a lot of people are, you know, we're all in shock. You know, there's addicts wandering around there that are actually in shock. They're grieving their home groups, and there are a lot of them who are in pain and feeling a lot of stress. You know, so we're here to kind of help them. I apologise for being late today, by the way, Shane. I've had a busy morning. One of the things I got involved with this morning as an experienced member of doing these kinds of meetings was I was invited to my local ground-based ASC, who put on their very first ASC online to me, and I can't say how important that was. Is the opportunity for all of us that have got any experience with this whatsoever to make ourselves available on a kind of smaller scale to share our experience, strength and hope with local service bodies who are now struggling to, what do? We've got 10, 15, 20 meetings that have suddenly popped up. They're not kind of related to us. You know, there was only 6. And I have a kind of a bit of a theory about that, in so much as, you know, what's kind of happening is we're all too busy preening ourselves in front of our videos and watching ourselves on screen. You know, and I'm sorry if that sounds a bit judgmental, but that's what's going on, and it's happening more and more and more. And one of the things we discussed was not so much guidelines for us as service bodies, and I think this has been touched on as well, the absolute importance of actually creating some kind of etiquette. And I really, you know, the idea of getting some stuff going about how do you behave in an online meeting, you know, and it's like, I think it was said, you know, if you wouldn't do it in a face-to-face meeting, don't do it in an online meeting, you know, put some clothes on. You know, I go to face-to-face meetings, but I wouldn't go out to a face-to-face meeting without making sure I was presentable. I've got a clean shirt on, I'm clean and tidy, you know, I mean, I've probably had a shower, you know, I mean, all of that good stuff. And I'm in a meeting. And I'm paying attention to that meeting. You know, if I'm playing with my phone or doing my makeup, or I'm sat there, you know, I'm sat there with no shirt on, people are going to be thinking, well, what the fuck's going on? You know, so there's that sort of stuff going on as well, for us. You know, so I don't really know whether I can add much more to this discussion. We have attempted to break into H&I, it was unfortunate use of words. We're trying to break into prisons, guys, you know. You know, I mean, as addicts, we're trying to break into prisons. I mean, who knew? You know what I mean? And finding that very hard. There is a lot of opposition by the authorities and by the facilities that are doing this stuff, particularly here in the UK, to anything new. They're as much in the dark as this as we are. One thing we did manage to do is we put together a bit of a kind of a crib sheet, if you like, that we've sent out to a few facilities, offering our services, but also giving them a real basic breakdown. This is what you need. You need this, 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 and this, and you can make these meetings work for you. And what we found now is that what we're discovering now is that a lot of the facilities in the UK are kind of doing that for themselves. You know, they're figuring it out. And again, I think that's really important. I was the first group I ever started in NA meeting I started, which was in 1993. in the UK. We were struggling a little meeting, and for the first time, we had some people come to our facility from a treatment centre. They sent a busload of people, and it was a real kind of, you know, it felt really good that was happening. You know, it felt as if we were doing it right, because these people had felt that this is a strong meeting. We can do what we can do here, and we can. Unfortunately, and this is true, there was a guy sat in that meeting at the time who was known to us, but we didn't realise how sick he was. Sat in the room in a wheelchair, and across the table from him was a young girl in treatment who screamed. And it turned out this guy was masturbating under the table, looking at this girl in the face. You know, I'm not saying that that's the kind of thing that's going to be happening in these new Zoom meetings, but you know, I've heard stories just really. You know, we have to be really mindful if we're going to go into facilities that the meetings that are presenting to these people are controlled in such a way as that, you know, we're not, you know, as it says in Tradition 4, it talks about affecting NA as a whole. You know, anything that we do online now is going to reflect on the fellowship for years to come. And people coming into meetings and seeing inappropriate behaviour and hearing inappropriate things, that kind of stuff, are going to be looking, well, you know, what are these people?
We just lose Steve.
I think so. He just froze up.
His internet's been really bad today.
All right,
let's
Steve,
go. Let's
I'm
go
gonna
to
keep
Willie,
you-
and then we'll come back.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Willie. Steve, I'm gonna keep your hand up. If you come back, just shoot one of us a message.
And we got Jay. Jay's going to give a little bit after the questions about H&I in Australia and how it's working. So go ahead.
All right,
Jay.
I think Steve has been. I can even mute him right now. So Willie P, you're up. Go ahead, Willie.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, gentlemen, Chris, Kelly, and Shane, for your service. And just to recap on yesterday, you guys did an awesome job. And now I'm listening to a lot of questions, and I appreciate all of those that have participated this morning in New York, at least. My question is, I understand about, I think it was Glenn that mentioned, putting an account on the one member and having the area service committee have one account, and one of you two gentlemen mentioned multiple keys. So the question is whether or not you can run 2 or more meetings during the same time frame.
All right. So there's a difference in account, meeting ID, and then meetings. And so what you need to know as a user is, like for Zoom, you have an account that gives you a PMI, personal meeting ID number. That's the 9 or the 10-digit number associated with your account. And when you have that account, you can only have one meeting at a time. Now you can give what's called the host key to other people, and they can use that one meeting space, like that one room, whenever. They can come in, start it as if they were you know, and they have the controls. Now, inside of one meeting, you can do what's called breakout rooms, and that's an option that you will enable in your basic meeting settings if you have a paid account, a pro account. That's the basic account. And you can set up separate spaces on one account that are facilitated by, you know, you can assign co-host to each space, and they can run, all those can run consecutively at the same time. So people show up to the one ID, and then you move them into their particular rooms. Okay. As an add-on to your basic pro account, a basic pro account gets up to 100 participants. So you can only have 100 people show up to that one ID number, no matter how many breakout rooms you do. Now you can pay an extra fee called an add-on for up to 500 participants, which is with the cost of the pro account on top of that. It's about $70 US. And then you can do up to 1,000, and that is a little around $90 US. Or you can do a webinar, which is a whole different thing. In a webinar, you can have up to 100 speaking participants and 10,000 watching. So what you need to establish is, what are your needs, and then how you facilitate those needs with the different types of features that Zoom or Blue Jeans or Skype or Google Meets has to offer. So now I'm sure you have more questions. So keep going, Willie, now that we've said that.
Well, the reason why I asked, because I do the H&I PR webinar with Jane and the
Yep.
rest of the folks from the World Service, but I needed to know that. So my area was considering opening up an account and giving it to 100 and something groups. So that was the purpose of my question. And also because if we are trying to connect with H&I on that level, and we have, let's just say, 3 or 4 different locations, but I get what you're saying, because we could connect all 3 or 4 of those locations onto one presentation. So you pretty much answered what I was thinking about, and gave me some direction, but I'm sure I'll touch base with you guys or find you through Kelly at some point.
You can reach out. Me and Chris is going to jump in here in just a second too, because we just got contacted by Australia for an actual area that was about 180 meetings a week, right? And they said, how do we break this up if the area wants to offer this to all the home groups? And I looked at them and I said, well, let's look at simultaneous meetings. When are the meetings that are at the same time? Can they join together? A couple of them. And it turned out the most they ever had at one time at the same time was 8 meetings. So 7 o'clock at night over there, they had in Queensland or wherever it was, they had 8 meetings. And then at 7:30, they have like 6 meetings. And at 8, they have like 9 meetings. So what we settled on was, okay, if you figured out how to do breakout rooms, you can buy the account. Chris, what was it that we settled on? Was it they only needed to pay for 4 accounts, right? Because they didn't feel like, you have to find out how many participants kind of live in the area too. And what did they settle on? 800 people, Chris, was that the number?
Yeah, 800 people was their number, 4 different accounts, and they were using breakout rooms to broadcast meetings at the same time. So that would be 1 host per account. You would join, tell the host what meeting you want to attend, which would be a breakout room that would move you into that meeting, and you'd have your own meeting. But that works best when the meetings are at the same times.
So what we were thinking was, you pair up 2 home groups that together don't equal 100 people. You know, like say you have a group that's normally about 50 and another group's normally about 30. Well, you pair those 2 at the same breakout room time. You know, you don't want to take a group that's normally 150 people and another group that's 120 and try to put them in the same breakout room together, because you can only have, or on that same meeting ID, because you can only have 100 participants. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it takes some planning, and you just have to graph it out. You have to mark out the number of how many normally attend that home group, and then you just match them together that way. And then you have, instead of having to have like 40 hosts or 40 people who don't know what they're doing, you can run the whole thing with about 6 people, and you only need someone to chair each meeting. You know, you just have to, when people show up, they show up to the waiting room and you move them to the breakout room. That's it.
Thank you very much.
You can schedule a time with us, and me and Chris can do an in-depth training on that and show you what that looks like.
I think that would be fair, probably for everyone, not just a one-on-one.
Well, here's the problem: is we try to create a video for that, like
right.
a screen share. But what happens is there are these, you know, when you hit your chat and the chat comes up in the center screen, there's a little square.
Yeah.
You know, when we do a screen share, we see a black square. So the same thing happens when you start breakout rooms. Is there's this black square that comes up in the center, and it's the controls for it, but it's dark. You can't see it on the screen record video. So we're going to have to find a way to do it directly from a Mac or Windows to show that. And we just haven't figured that out yet. Go ahead, Chris. Oh, okay.
So right on YouTube, Zoom has their own video on breakout rooms. It's a 3-minute video. I mean, it'll go right through and show you everything.
Hey everyone, Farah from Zoom here.
That you need.
On this brief video, we're going to show you how you can leverage our breakout room feature to take a large meeting or virtual classroom and split it up into smaller groups or sessions.
Awesome. So that already exists. That is a video that Zoom produced. I mean, I would suggest starting with that and then come into us with any additional questions, because a lot of that information is already out there. And if you see so that the thing about this quote unquote crisis is it's awakened so much creativity in this fellowship. We have tools that are in existence like Zoom. And now we as addicts will look at this and say, how can we use this to carry our message? And we're getting very creative. And breakout rooms to host multiple meetings is one of those ways. And I'm saying the difference between a Narcotics Anonymous meeting and an H&I panel is super important. But on the same Zoom account, you can have an H&I panel in one breakout room and an NA meeting in the other if you need it. An area, whatever could set that stuff up. Like, we see the potential in these tools now. And that's what we're trying to get through today, is using these tools to help us carry this message for now.
That also takes a serious level of communication and organization that we may not have yet.
Right.
You know, we may not be, there's probably only 4 or 5 different bodies in the world that could actually do that today, right now.
I'll tell you that this body right here, he could do that right now.
So confident. I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where's Jay at? You got him, Chris?
Let's see.
I got
Jay's
him.
in Florida.
He's not connected to audio. Oh, there
He's
he is.
unmuted.
Okay, go ahead, Jay.
There you go,
You're up,
Jay.
man.
I'm an addict. My name is Jay. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry I'm late. I planned to be here. I had internet issues this morning. It took me an hour to straighten it out. This gets really freaky when you don't have internet and you're doing internet meetings. I've been doing this for 8 years. I'm also a computer guy. I've been involved in Skype. Blue Jeans is what we use. One of the things they use down in Australia, they put up a new area with Discord. I'm also involved in one of the groups down there, which is an area, 22 meetings a week. We've been functioning as an area for over, well, almost 5 years. It started out as a meeting and started out as a group. It's got a bank account. It uses PayPal. And we're also doing H&I, and they've been doing H&I for 18 months. It started out with 1 treatment center and is now 3 treatment centers every Monday, a panel. And I heard some things about bringing women into men's institution or bringing men into women's institutions. It won't work. You can't do it. I don't care if you're virtual or not, because they've just gone into the prisons in New South Wales, and the prisons are allowing the H&I panel to use their system. They don't even want us to bring the meetings in on the systems that we're using. They have a system in-house that they use to have the lawyers talk to the inmates, and they've allowed us to use that. And to be a member of that panel, you have to fill out all the paperwork still at this point. We haven't gotten that far. And I can see the same thing happening as we roll it out in this country, because at this point, Australia seems to be a little farther ahead, but they've been working on it for the last couple of years, and things hit with people in top positions that are involved in the fellowship.